All right, going to the games this week. We will start with Tennessee, and I'll lead us off. We're going to give you our picks. Actually, Shane, I'm going to go ahead and throw this one out, and then before we get to the next games, I'm going to kind of give a recap of last week. Guys, I'm sorry if you're using me as a barometer on what to pick. Don't do it because I'm picking horrible right now. But I'll give an update here in a second. Tennessee versus Buffalo. It's at Tennessee. Tennessee is a 28.5 point favorite. I think that's too many points. But I'm going to take Tennessee because I'm pretty much going to always take them because I like them. So Tennessee Volunteers covering the 28.5. Blair.
I'm going to go with you on that. I think Tennessee is going to come out. I think they've got. Was it Dooley that gave the little fire and brimstone speech the other day at practice because they didn't practice very well. So I think he's getting them all squared away. I think they're going to roll up for at least 4 touchdowns plus on Buffalo.
I mean, it's 4+ touchdowns. It's not just 4. So as much as I'd like to say that Drew's right, and Drew even admitted himself that he's such a homer that he's going to take them even though he knows that's too many points, and I agree. So I'm going to have to take Buffalo in this game and go against Tennessee. I've got to find a reason to go against Tennessee. That's the way that this comes down to. Drew finds a way to go with Tennessee, and I'm going to find a way to go against Tennessee. So when you're looking at our picks, what you need to do is look at each week's picks. We do put those up on our website, and I totally, guys, you forgot to let me know. I didn't give tell them how to find us. That's secsrt.com. Go there. You can see all our past picks. If you take out the Kentucky and Tennessee picks on me, I think you're going to find out that you're going to find some great insight there. I think I'm doing well. I think I'm tied for second right now, and if you take those picks out, I'd probably be first. I'm not bragging or anything, but
that's got to stick to his principles. Yeah.
That's right. But you've got to take out the Kentucky and UT games because I'm going to go against UT and I'm going to go for Kentucky. But I will say last week I broke that, and I did not take Kentucky. And it was a good thing because they did not do well. So I'm going to take Buffalo. All that being said.
So I'm going to have to go with Shane. I got to pick Buffalo. The reason why is I think with Hunter going out, I think Tennessee's going to come out and try to run the ball. I think they've got to figure out how to run the ball, and they've got to prove to their players they can. I don't think their defense is good enough to create points and create turnovers. 28.5 is just too many points when you lose someone like Hunter. I think Tennessee's going to win handily, but I think they're going to really try to run the ball, eat some clock, and they'll end up winning by maybe even 28 points. But 28.5 is just it's too much.
But they have a service. I mean, they've got a pretty good running back. He's not had a great season so far, Drew, and you could probably help me out with how he's done. But just as a casual fan of the SEC, not of the University of Tennessee Volunteers, Torrin Poole's had a pretty decent season so far, and he's got potential to do a lot better.
Well,
I think that's where it really boils down to.
I feel he's actually been pretty disappointing.
Underperforming?
He's underperformed from what he did last year with a worse team. He ran the ball better last year. He's not hitting holes. They're having a hard time running the ball right now. But I think he has the potential to break out. Yes,
that's a different Tennessee team. I mean, the first 6 games they had a different quarterback in there. They were struggling. The last half of their season was much easier, so it opened it up when they put Tyler Bray in there. They had to rely on the run because they didn't have a quarterback that could throw the ball where it needed to be. So we're looking at a completely different Tennessee this year with a quarterback that has weapons. I mean, yeah, they've lost a big piece of that puzzle, but they still have some really good people out there with Zach Rogers and Derek Rogers.
Yeah, Zach Rogers, you don't even need to mention him. I mean, Poole, here's the thing about Torrin Poole is...
See, why do I even try to give you credit for having some good positive things about Tennessee? All right, I'm just going to start bashing from here on out.
This is what's bad. No, I mean, thank you. I appreciate what you're saying there. But the thing about Torrin Poole is he's never... I mean, I think his stats show up... Like if you didn't have stats, you wouldn't think he's as good as what his stats prove. I mean, he was a 1,000-yard rusher last year, and nobody really gave him any credit. Rushing behind just a very, very young offensive line. And here's the thing: is this year he's looked horrible, but he's had 100-yard, 200-yard games, I believe, and really but he just hadn't looked good at all. He looked really bad against Florida, but I mean we couldn't run the ball at all against Florida. So who knows? It's gonna that Justin Hunter injury is huge for Tennessee because it makes Derrick Rogers a little worse. I mean, you losing that guy that can stretch the field, and I don't think that Rodgers is your prototypical number one receiver. He's not an Alshon Jeffrey. He's not a Greg Childs, those type guys. He's a guy that I think does well because he's really strong and can kind of go be a red zone target. But I think Justin Hunter was that. I'm not going to say he's Alshon Jeffrey because I think Alshon Jeffrey's head and shoulders the best receiver in the league. But I mean the guy had almost 400 yards receiving over 300 yards receiving in 2 games. So I think that's tough to replace. And now we need to see if Taron Poole can be the back, 1,000-yard back, a senior leader on the team. He's going to have to step up.
Yeah, and I think they know to beat South Carolina, Arkansas, LSU, any of those teams, they got to be able to run the ball. I think this is a week they work on that. They work in some plays, they play a little ball control, and try to get that running game going.
Yeah, I agree. We'll go to the next game. We're going to hit it with Blair here. Your least favorite team, Fresno State at home. They're giving 4.5 points to Ole Miss. So Ole Miss is a 4.5-point dog against Fresno.
Fresno State taking it all the way. Ole Miss, they got to go all the way out to the left coast, and it's not very positive these days at Ole Miss, and they had a little bit of different fight. They just don't have any offense, so I'm just going to go ahead and take Fresno State.
I will do the same. I don't know a whole lot about Fresno State this year, but they're going to have to travel all the way to the West Coast, which it's always difficult to do that with the time change.
The
Valley. You've got a pretty good Fresno State team. I think they're 2-2, but they always play a tough game. And Ole Miss has just not impressed me this year. So I'm gonna just go out on a limb here and say that I think Fresno State is going to take that win and cover by a touchdown.
So I actually think Ole Miss is going to do better on the road than at home. I mean, there's too much pressure.
Less hostile environment.
Not going to get booed as much probably, but I still got to take Fresno. I mean, I think I would pick Brentwood Academy against Ole Miss right now. I mean, they're just, coaches on the hot seat. They're not playing with any confidence. They don't even look like they know what they're doing out there. Fresno is a decent team, good enough to beat Ole Miss by more than 4.5 points, I think. So I'm going to take Fresno.
It's sad, and this has been a running theme. I am trying to find a reason to take Ole Miss in this game, to take a SEC team on, getting points from a non-BCS school, but I'm agreeing with the other guys. I just think Fresno State's better than Ole Miss. Fresno has looked pretty good in their games so far. They have had a couple tough games, playing Nebraska and Cal, but I think they're going to get it done. So I'm taking Fresno as well in this game. Go to another one, and fittingly, we're going to let Shane pick this one first. LSU Tigers playing in Baton Rouge. Versus Kentucky, 30.5.
I'm so glad it's not a night game at Baton Rouge. It's definitely not deserving of that, but the Cajuns being that rowdy on a night game, as bad as Kentucky is, I think the spread would get another 7 or 8 points just because of that. But thankfully it's not. 30.5 is a lot of points, but you've seen the way LSU can just put up points at will. You've seen how Kentucky cannot put up points, even if you have a wide open gap. They're going to find a way to fall at the 3 or something. I'm going to have to take LSU on that, and it just breaks my heart to have to keep going against Kentucky 2 weeks in a row. But they've got to give me a reason to. I mean, I just want them to beat the spread here. I'm not even asking them to win against LSU.
You're trying to win this little pick contest we've got.
I'm doing a pretty good job of that, but the LSU's just so good, and Kentucky's just not there. I mean, I'm going to be so ecstatic if we can get to 6 wins, and we've talked about this in depth and in length in other podcasts about how I don't know if there's wins out there to get them to 6, even with the rest of the schedule they have after some of these tough SEC games. So I'm going to have to take the points in LSU.
Wiz?
Well, LSU can score in every phase of the game, and Kentucky can't score in any phase, I don't think. So I got to go with LSU. I got to think they the defense creates a couple scores, if not directly with field position. 30.5 is a ton, but you can't not take LSU, and I think Kentucky just has to hope and pray. And then, if they don't turn it over, LSU could just run out the clock and run it on them. But, I got to think Kentucky turns it over.
Well, if they run it on them, they're just going to have gaps and run for touchdowns. So
yeah, but as long as Kentucky can just go 3 and out, not turn it over, they might be able to cover.
Well,
just victory formation and let the clock run.
Yeah.
I can not take LSU. I'm going to take Kentucky in this game. 30.5 points is a lot of points. I'm thinking LSU just takes it easy on the boys from Kentucky up
No
there.
mercy.
I think 30.5 points. I'm going to take all those points. LSU is bound to have just somewhat of a down game. I still think they win by in the 20s, but a late score from Kentucky covers the spread.
Is it a night game?
No, I think
No,
it's
it's
like an 11.
Oh man.
That's what I said.
Kentucky might win.
I'm glad it's not a night game. I said if it was a night game, Kentucky would be getting another 8.5 points to LSU.
I'm going to take LSU, and I was kind of leaning towards Kentucky, like Drew was talking about, maybe having kind of a little bit of a letdown. But this will only be the second. Is it the second game they'll have in Baton Rouge? And it's really the first SEC opponent that they'll have there. So I think that kind of getting home. Getting ready, knowing that they're number 1 in one poll, number 2 in the other. I think they go out there and just roll it up on them.
All right. Next game, and this is kind of neat that this works out this way. We'll let the homer pick them first. South Carolina, 11.5 point favorites at home against Auburn Tigers. What do you think, Mark?
Based on what I saw on offense this weekend, I got to go with Auburn. That's too many points. Auburn can score. South Carolina, can't score on offense, right? I mean, they're going to run Lattimore, and just try to get something out of Garcia. If Garcia turns around and has an Alabama-type game from last year, South Carolina could win it going away, but he hasn't shown the ability to even come close to that this year. 4 bad games, the last one probably being the worst. South Carolina's going to run. They're going to play good defense. I think they win, but I don't see how they can cover that many points.
I wasn't super impressed with South Carolina's offense. We've already talked about that from this last week. And Auburn is a team. Their offense is much better than Vanderbilt's. I also believe their defense is much worse than Vanderbilt's. But I'm going to take Auburn as well on this. I think 11.5 is too many points to give to a team that knows how to win like Auburn. So I'm taking Auburn and the 11.5.
I'm actually going to go South Carolina. I have a feeling that at some point this season they're going to put it all together in one game. And Auburn is just the team to do it. I do think that they're going to go run heavy. I don't think Auburn can stop them, and I think their defense played well enough and kind of got back into a little bit of a groove. I don't think that they're going to just run completely away from them, but I think they can win this by 2 touchdowns.
You kind of took some of my talking points there. I'm like you. I think South Carolina's better than they've played the first 4 games, and you've not seen them put all the pieces together yet. Unlike you, I don't think they're going to put them all together against Auburn, but I think they're going to come back and play a much better game than they did last week. I'm still not impressed with Auburn. I've seen them score a lot, but I've not seen them score quality touchdowns. Some of them have been give-me's against. I'm thinking of that Mississippi State game. You guys gave them a 14-point lead in 2 minutes, and they should have never had that. That completely changed that whole ball game, and I think USC is not going to make those same mistakes. I think they're going to expand on the lead once they get it, and not look back. I think it's going to be a 2-touchdown win.
Next game on the docket, we've got the Georgia Bulldogs at home against Mississippi State Bulldogs. 7.5 point spread. I think that Georgia's going to win this game. I don't like that half point. I don't like giving more than a touchdown, so I'm going to take Mississippi State. But I do think Georgia's going to win this game.
I'm taking State to cover the 7.5. I think it's a big game for both of them. I think State. I think they'll be really focused. I think they'll play more of a kind of a focus game like the LSU game, where you're playing La Tech, you go into overtime. So I think they'll have everybody's attention this week. The problem that we got to do is we got to get better on third down. I think we were 3 for 16 against La Tech, and you can't win any ball games doing that. So I think Mullen's going to get a couple of those things going. I think we get back to the run game, we might have a shot.
I'm going to pick Georgia in this. I guess I'm going to go against you guys as well.
Good pick, Shane.
Thank you. Book it.
Sorry, Blair.
Georgia's just got a lot to prove this year, and and they don't have any opportunities to have another hiccup. So for that reason alone, I think Georgia's going to win this handily. I think 10, 14 points is going to be more than enough for them to win this game, and so I'm going to take the Georgia Bulldogs.
So everything, I want to agree with Shane so much. Like but I got to take State, and the reason is I think State can run the ball on them. The thing that makes me nervous is Georgia's getting better and better every week. They're playing with a lot of confidence. State, played the back half of last season and the start of this season with tons of confidence. The last couple games, like Louisiana Tech, they kind of lost their identity. They are capable of running the ball and staying with Georgia, but if they play like they've been playing and kind of continue the trend, Georgia's going to beat them by a couple touchdowns. But I got to think, Mullen gets them organized, gets in there, because State's every bit as good as Georgia. I think they can play with them. So I got to go with State to cover that.
Next game, this is a wonderful game, and this is a game that will become a rivalry here in the coming years. We've got Texas A&M traveling to Arkansas. Texas A&M is a 3-point favorite on the road against the Razorbacks. Blair, break that game down for us.
I'm going to go Arkansas. I think being at home and Texas A&M kind of fell apart with Oklahoma State over the Saturday, and they kind of blew a second half lead. I think they're up 20-3 and end up losing that ball game. So, but I think Arkansas kind of gets it going back. Petrino's going to make sure that he gets some things going. So I'm going to go Arkansas. Arky.
I'm with you. I think Arkansas is going to get back on the right track. They've got a lot of tape to look at from the Alabama game to see the things that they didn't do correctly that they need to change. And Petrino's great about making adjustments. So I think he's going to make those adjustments. Like you said, A&M had that game in the bag last week as well, and they just totally lost it in the fourth quarter. And I don't think they're going to recover from that. And they're really going to see what the SEC's like coming up Saturday, and I'm going to take Arkansas. That's not enough points to take A&M.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like Arkansas big in this game. There's lots of reasons. I mean, A&M had a crushing loss. Whedon threw for 450 yards. I mean, Arkansas is their passing offense and the athletes they have are as good or better than Oklahoma State. Justin Blackman's the best receiver. Arkansas has got 4 of them that are just one notch below. I think they're going to put up a ton of points. A&M, I think after that loss is, I know Arkansas lost a tough game, but they kind of lost going away. A&M lost a really tough one going on the road. Hard to play in Arkansas. SEC's, too much. I think Arkansas wins this going away.
Is Arkansas's defensive ends going to be ready for this game? I know that Beckwith was out for the Alabama game, but the other kid got hurt, which put them really behind the ball. I forget the guy's name. Tarek White or something like that.
Yeah, Tariq White.
Yeah, something like that. So, but if those two guys aren't in there, that hurts them on defense. But I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, we're recording this on a Sunday night. This is a little earlier than usual, and we usually don't hear much, until they get into practice for the next week. I'm going to go against the grain on this from you guys. I'm going to take Texas A&M. I just think that Arkansas, had the hopes that this could be their year, that they could play with the big boys in the West, and it didn't look like they could. And I think Texas A&M is a good team. It's kind of funny because we're going to be talking about this team in the coming months and the coming years, but Texas A&M, they're a very high-powered offense. They don't run the ball, as they're more of a passing team than a running team. And Tannehill had a good game passing wise as far as yardage, but threw 3 interceptions. That's how Oklahoma State got back in the game, and they've got one of the better receivers out there in Ryan Swope. So I think Texas A&M is going to come in and really want to impress some people, knowing that this is a game that they're going to be playing for years to come. So I'm taking Texas A&M in this game to cover, just so I can be different from you guys. So last game, we'll kick it off with Shane. This is game of the week. We talk about how last week we mentioned how Vanderbilt. We didn't really know. We could find out a lot about Vanderbilt by the game against South Carolina. Well, we can find out. We don't know about Florida. We can find out about Florida this week. They're playing at home against a team in Alabama that's going to be ready to play, and Florida's going to have everything running a well-oiled machine to play with them. So Alabama at Florida. Alabama's a 4.5-point favorite. Shane.
It is at the Swamp. That's the only good thing for Florida. Alabama is. I mean, you saw them stop the run against Penn State. That's what Penn State's big weapon was the run. Now, granted, Penn State doesn't have the same speed that Florida does, but all you got to do is stop them at the line. The speed's not going to matter if they never get past that D line. Roll Tide. It's just I'm gonna have to ride that one until they prove me wrong, because I thought Arkansas was going to be the team to beat. I didn't think Alabama was going to be at the level they are, and they've totally convinced me otherwise. I think they are the real deal. I just can't wait till November 5th and see what that's going to be when they play LSU, because both of those teams are going to go in there undefeated.
Yeah, so Nick Saban versus Charlie Weiss, huh? So I'm with Shane. Got to go with Saban and Alabama. I think this is where John Brantley gets exposed. Alabama's too good. Rainey and Demps are great, but you can game plan for those guys and shut them down, and then put the pressure on Brantley to make plays. And I don't think he has enough playmakers, and I don't think he's good enough to take it up and down the field on Bama's defense. The thing that makes me nervous is Florida is their front seven is excellent, and I think they can stop Bama's running game at least for a little while and make this a close one. But I think at the end Alabama pulls away.
That's funny. That's the exact point I was going to make. I'm going to go ahead and get it out of the way. I'm going to take Alabama in this game because I think they're the better team, and 4.5 points, is not too many to give up even on the road. But I do think this could, turn into an interesting game because the strength for Florida on defense is that defensive line and that front seven, exactly like Mark said. They had an unbelievable recruiting class about 2 years ago, I believe, on that defensive line when they got Easley and Floyd and Ronald Powell, and those guys are playing. They really have just started. They're a very good team, and I think their strength is stopping the run and getting pressure on the quarterback. So it's going to put the game in McCarron's hands. It's this
could happen this week.
Yeah, exactly what Mark said. I believe this is going to be a week where you can't just hand the ball to Richardson. And just say win the game for us. I think McCarron's going to have to do something, and the Florida's weakness on defense is their secondary. So we'll have to see what Florida can do on defense to stop McCarron, and we'll have to see what McCarron can do. Watching that Tennessee game, just bringing it back to that, Florida had about 405 defensive pass interference. That's how they played defense, was just pushing Tennessee before they caught the ball. I think they need to, if Florida can get a pass rush on McCarron and Alabama, I think they can make this an interesting game. But I'm still going to take Alabama, saying all that.
Yeah, I'm going to take Alabama as well. But I do think that this could be an interesting game. I think Rainey, I heard a stat the other day, Drew, that you'd probably like. Rainey is averaging over 7 yards a carry rushing for a career with over 200 carries, which is pretty remarkable. But he's got the breakaway speed. I mean, you saw it against Tennessee with that little dump down 3-yard pass. It goes for 83. So they've got some speed. They can maybe break some.
Salt in the wound there, Drew.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you just say that. I mean, yeah, that's wonderful speed, great job, but I mean, when a linebacker totally misses his assignment and is guarding air on the left side of the field, and you've got
a sprint,
you've got an Olympic sprinter on the other side of the field. I think good job,
advantage sprinter.
I think Mark would have scored on that play.
Big difference between Tennessee's defense and Alabama's defense.
Correct. Yeah, they don't. Alabama doesn't have a true freshman linebacker that was playing against
air.
We remember nobody in high school.
Well, kind of totally off topic. You remember we were talking about announcers about that play, about how Gary Danielson broke down that play and how they basically made a switch at the line of scrimmage, and the linebacker, the freshman linebacker, was just playing on the wrong side of the field, and he was sitting there guarding air. It was kind of interesting. But talking about announcers, I listened to Gary Danielson, who is awesome, and Von Lundquist is terrible, like you were talking about. But if you didn't watch the Mississippi State La Tech game, Danny Cannell and Rob Stone are the worst announcers I've ever heard in my life. So just a little off topic, but I think you can find both of them at Danny Cannell, ESPN, and at Rob Stone, ESPN. You can just tell them how terrible they are.
Hey, man, hold on. I like the Danny Cannell. He was like the only guy that picked Tennessee to beat Florida, which goes to show you, he picked incredibly
they had
wrong.
No clue what was going on in that game. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But they were terrible. It's like they never even knew who La Tech was, and they never even looked at Mississippi State and did any type of research. It was crazy.
So they showed up Saturday morning to do the game.
Obviously,
Here's a roster. Go for it, boys.
That's what's so bad, and I don't want to bring it back, but how can that's the greatest job in the world. You go call a game and you watch a game and you just tell people what you think and you're calling it. Now it's a tough thing to do, but how do you not know the names of like the best players? Like Justin Hunter, he called him Jason Hunter about 42 times, and I would struggle, if I was Danielson, because I guarantee you Gary Danielson knew what his name was, and how did he not say it's Justin Hunter, Vern? I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, it's funny. They try to sneak it in there, no, because you can tell it's killing him.
Yeah, He doesn't say like actually Vern. That's Justin Hunter. He's preseason All SEC. He's like yeah, Justin Hunter made a good play there. He tries to to slip it in.
Repeat it over and over and over. Yeah. Hopefully, he'll catch on.
I can say as a guy who is horrible with names, I completely understand where Vern's coming from.
Yeah, but it's not. You don't get a lot of money to remember him.
Well, that's true too. I get 0 for this. I would be happy if I got the J right. I could have been calling him Carl for all that matter.
Well, hold on, Shane. You're good with names. I mean, you just called Cobb
Patrick Patterson. There you go.
You called Randall Cobb your center. Yeah, your basketball center.
Point taken. See, I just proved my point right there. I'm horrible with names.
Well, Shane, that's all the games we've got. So